You wake up, check your blood sugar before breakfast, and the number is higher than it was the night before. But you haven't eaten anything for 8 or 9 hours. And if this keeps happening, the useful question isn't only how high the number is, it's when that rise actually began. So where did that extra glucose come from? Surprisingly, part of the answer may be your own liver, not your breakfast. In the early morning, hormones that help your body wake up can signal the liver to release stored glucose. But that's only one of the reasons morning numbers run high. And there's a simple 3-point check that tells you which one is happening to you. Most people never do it because they only ever look at a single number. So let's start with those 3 points. Then we'll go through what can actually push that number up overnight. And at the end, I'll show you what a full week of this looks like, so you can see the difference for yourself. Here are the 3 points. The first is bedtime, your number when you go to sleep. The second is overnight. And the third is morning, your number when you wake up. Now, about that middle one. And to be clear, checking overnight is only something to do if your healthcare professional has specifically advised it. Don't start waking yourself up at 3 in the morning on your own. If you use a continuous glucose monitor, that information is already being collected for you. Here's why all 3 matter. A morning number on its own tells you very little. It's a single photograph. What you actually need is the direction. What happened between the time you went to bed and the time you woke up. And you need it more than once, because one morning is not a pattern. One more thing worth saying early. A home meter is a tracking tool, not a diagnostic one. Diagnosis uses laboratory testing. Let's start with the reason most people have never heard of. In the hours before you wake up, your body starts preparing for the day. Certain hormones rise, the ones that get you up and moving. And one of the things they do is signal your liver to release some of the glucose it has stored. This is normal. It happens to everyone. Your liver isn't malfunctioning, it's doing its job. The difference is what happens next. When the body handles glucose easily, insulin rises alongside it and keeps things steady. When that response is slower or weaker, the glucose goes up and stays up. And you meet it at the breakfast table. This is often called the dawn phenomenon. Here's what matters for you. If this is what's happening, you'd expect the number to climb between bedtime and morning. You went to bed at one level and woke up higher. The rise happened during the night. Which means, what did I eat last night may be the wrong question entirely. Nothing came in. Something came out from storage. The second reason is much simpler. And it's the one people miss most often. Sometimes the morning number is up because it never came down in the first place. A large dinner, a late snack, being ill, a stretch of unusual stress. Any of these can leave your glucose elevated when you go to bed. And if it's already up at bedtime, it may simply still be up when you wake. Notice how different this is from the first reason. Nothing dramatic happened overnight. There was no climb. It started up and stayed up. Same morning reading. Completely different story. And this is exactly why I keep coming back to those 3 points. Without your bedtime number, these 2 situations look identical. You'd see the same figure on the meter with no way to tell which one you were looking at. One more thing. I'm not going to tell you a single food is responsible. It doesn't work that way. What matters is the overall pattern, not one item on the plate. The third reason applies to those of you taking insulin or other glucose-lowering medication. Medications don't work at the same strength every hour they're in your system. Depending on what you take and when you take it, the effect overnight can be different from the effect during the day. For some people, coverage through those early morning hours simply isn't the same. Now, I want to be careful here because this is where people make their worst decisions. Medication timing or dose changes should be discussed with your healthcare professional rather than adjusted from one morning reading. And this cuts both ways. Overnight lows can be dangerous. sometimes more dangerous than a high morning number. So this is not a reason to skip or reduce your evening medication on your own. It's a reason to bring the pattern to the person who prescribed it. I want that to land, so I'll say it plainly. A high morning number is information. It is not an instruction. The useful move is to write it down and take it to your appointment, not to change something tonight. Poor sleep, illness, stress, and certain medications can also play a part. Corticosteroids like prednisone are a common example. They raise blood sugar, sometimes for many hours after a dose. You may also hear about the Somogai effect, the idea that an overnight low causes a rebound high by morning. When researchers watched with continuous monitors, they mostly didn't find it. People who wake up high usually weren't low overnight. So let's put it together, because this is the part that actually changes what you do. Take those 3 points and stop asking, "Is my number high?" Ask instead, "What happened overnight?" There are really 3 answers. First, the number climbed noticeably between bedtime and morning. You went to bed at one level and woke up meaningfully higher. That direction may point toward a rise that happened during the night. The hormonal pattern we talked about. Overnight medication coverage, or both together. Second, the number barely moved. It was up when you went to bed, and it's still up now. The night didn't add much to it. That may suggest the rise never happened overnight at all. It happened earlier, in the evening, and carried straight through until morning. Third, most nights look similar to each other, and then one night looks nothing like the rest. That's the one people panic about. But a single night that breaks the pattern is usually just variation. Illness, a late meal, a bad night's sleep. It's a data point, not a trend. Now, notice what I'm not doing. I'm not telling you what any specific number means. I'm not giving you a threshold. The number on its own isn't the information. The direction is. Which way did it move, and does it move that way most nights? That's the check. Bedtime, overnight, morning. And it takes about 10 seconds a day to collect. Let me show you what this looks like on paper. Here's what 1 week of notes can look like. This is an illustration, not a case, and not your numbers. Monday, the number went up 24 points overnight. Tuesday, up 14. Thursday, up 24. Friday, up 25. 4 nights out of 5, the same thing happened. The number climbed while this person slept. That's a direction, and it's consistent. Now look at Wednesday. Overnight, it moved 6 points. Almost nothing. But Wednesday morning was the highest reading of the entire week. Think about what that means. If you only looked at Wednesday morning, you'd conclude something went badly wrong that night. In fact, that was the quietest night of the week. Whatever pushed that number up happened before this person ever went to bed. Same problem on the surface. 2 completely different explanations. That's what one reading can't tell you. If this kind of plain explanation is useful to you, subscribing helps these videos reach other people who are asking the same question. So, what can you actually do with this? Start with the simplest version. Write down 2 numbers, the one at bedtime, the one in the morning. Add the date. Leave a space for a note. That note matters more than you'd think. Write down roughly when you ate dinner. Write it down if you were ill, if something stressful happened, if you slept badly or woke up several times. Those are the things that explain the odd night, and you will not remember them a week later. Track the pattern over multiple days rather than reacting to one isolated morning, and follow any monitoring schedule your healthcare professional has recommended. If you already use a continuous glucose monitor, you have all of this and more. The overnight curve is right there. Look at the shape between midnight and waking, not just the number at the end. And then bring it in. That's the entire point of collecting it. What I'm not going to give you is an overnight fix. There's no supplement, no bedtime trick, no single food that reliably changes this. And anything presented that way should make you suspicious. What changes outcomes here is information in the right hands. 3 mistakes to avoid. The first, reacting to one reading. One morning is noise. You need several before you have anything worth acting on. The second, changing medication before you have a pattern. I've said it already and I'll say it once more because it's the one that carries real risk. Take the pattern to your prescriber. Don't adjust it yourself. And the third, looking only at breakfast. If the rise started at 4 in the morning or at 9 o'clock the night before, then breakfast was never the problem. Changing it won't fix anything. When you do sit down with your doctor, 4 questions will get you further than the numbers alone. Is this a pattern, or was that one morning an outlier? Should I be tracking anything alongside the morning number? Does my current plan cover the overnight hours the way you'd expect? Is there any testing that would show where the rise is starting? That last one is the important one. It moves the conversation from how high to when, which is the question we started with. And notice what none of these questions do. None of them ask you to decide anything on your own. Your job is to bring the pattern. Interpreting it is theirs. So when should you make a point of raising this? If your morning numbers are running high repeatedly, not once, repeatedly. If symptoms you already have are getting worse, or if something changes suddenly and you can't account for it. I'm not going to give you a number that means emergency, because that isn't something a video can responsibly decide for you. Repeated and worsening. Those are the words to pay attention to. If your glucose is high before breakfast, don't look only at breakfast. Compare bedtime, overnight, and morning. The 3 points. Your liver, your hormones, your evening glucose, and your treatment pattern can all matter. One reading is a number. A pattern is information. But before you interpret any number, there's another problem. A perfectly good glucose meter can still give you a misleading result if the test itself is done incorrectly. That's what I'll show you next.